Hello everyone and welcome back to another video where today we're going to be going over the latest revelations from Chris Chibnall. For those of you who don't know, Radio Free Skaro released a full hour-long interview with Chris Chibnall himself, which was conducted at the recent Gallifrey 1, and I want to go over some of the things he said. I've made some notes. I'm also going to leave the full podcast in the link description below, so if you want to listen to it, feel free. It's a great listen. Go check it out. Also, if you enjoy my content and you want to see more like it, feel free to subscribe. That would be very much appreciated. We are trying to get to 20,000 subscribers, and I know I haven't been around too much, but I'd really appreciate any support. I also have a Ko-fi page, which if you'd like to donate to, the link will be in the description below. It would really help me out. Financial times are tough, so any support you can give would be absolutely wonderful. But with that said, let's get into the video. So as I said, I've made some notes myself, but I wanted to go over some of the Twitter things. Luckily, William, who has transcribed some of the things that Chris Chibnall has said, including that Chris Chibnall confirmed it was the BBC's idea to move away from Christmas specials. Chris said it wasn't personal, as he loves Christmas. Spyfall was originally intended for Christmas Day, but the BBC said it was too scary for Christmas, therefore it got moved. I find this fascinating because I always thought of the Christmas New Year thing to be Chibnall's decision, but evidently he wanted to do a Christmas one, and it's interesting to me that Spyfall was deemed too scary or not appropriate for Christmas. I don't know whether I can speak, because in my opinion, I don't think it was really. It was quite upbeat, and I don't think necessarily, and obviously this is more of a BBC thing, but I don't think necessarily something has to be upbeat and have snow everywhere to be a Christmas special. I think you can play about with the format. Just because something airs on Christmas doesn't necessarily mean it has to be, orient around Christmas, be Christmas related. So yeah, I think it's a shame, but he also said that it might not have worked due to, where would you put Spyfall Part 2 then? Apparently it was meant to be Christmas Day, Boxing Day, which is really interesting. But it was originally the BBC's idea to try the New Year's slot with Resolution, which I find fascinating. This is a big one. Chris Chibnall has said marketing on Doctor Who for Series 12 and Flux was much more difficult due to the constraints of the BBC, budget constraints. Chris said that the new Disney Plus deal will hopefully iron out this issue moving forward, so more money can be spent on marketing of each series equally. So yeah, this is a really interesting thing. He basically said that for the first series, they had a big blowout for Series 11, and then, according to Chris, after that, for subsequent series, they're not normally given as much stuff. I will somewhat say, I do think more could have been done for free in terms of use of social media and stuff. However, he was also apparently constrained to only advertising through BBC campaigns. I think he said something like that, which I find really interesting because that to me implies that, there were certain limitations as to where they could advertise, which hopefully the scope of the advertising for Doctor Who will be broader thanks to the Disney Plus deal. But it was interesting to see him acknowledge that, yeah, the marketing wasn't always, what we wanted it to be, which is something that I kind of have been saying for ages. And, a lot of people were saying, oh, the marketing's fine, but evidently the team wanted to do more as well. Budget restraints and the restraints of the BBC also somewhat played a factor in the lack of marketing in some places, at least in my opinion. Chris Chibnall said his favourite Doctor Who rumour, apparently it originated from the Daily Star, was the cat, which anyone who's been a long time Doctor Who leak enjoyer will remember George Sheard way back in the day talking about this. So it's really funny to see him acknowledge the cat companion thing. I find that really, really funny. And then the other thing was, apparently during the filming of Series 11, specifically When We Fell to Earth, Chris Chibnall said that production issue narratives were shared online that weren't true. He said people lied. During Series 11 filming, a journalist phoned them, claiming staff were refusing to work, as Jodie was forcing them to work till 2 a.m. The nonsense they had to deal with. Yeah, so according to Chris, they were literally having a great time, and this journalist came along and was like, is she forcing them to work till 2 a.m? It's like, no. No, that's not a thing. So yeah, it's really weird how so many publications will just lie like that. And it definitely kind of, I think in my view, kind of puts a lot of the articles that, publications like this put out under a more, micro lens, in a sense of, if something is released in a big publication, doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. So I think that's something that I've sort of learned to bear in mind through this interview. Of course, as I said, I also made some of my own personal notes, including that during Series 11, some of you may know that there was a writer's room that was initially planned for his era. And apparently, that was a really novel thing at the time. Whilst they were constructing Series 11, contracts for writers' rooms in the BBC didn't exist. It was more of an American thing. So they spent a lot of time going back and forth to try and figure that out in Series 11, which I find really interesting. According to Chris as well, Tesla was the only episode, as in Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror, which he didn't have to, like, edit hugely, other than making sure that, you know, all the stage directions were correct and everything like that. He also says that despite claims that between the Capaldi and the Whittaker era there being a budget increase, in fact the budget was static for quite an elongated period of time, even when he took over. So the reduction to 11 episodes, as in 10 plus special, was partly to give more budget to individual episodes and allow for international travel for episodes, but also, he said, to keep with the times of TV, as you all know, most TV shows now, 6 to 8 episodes is the norm. So actually, what Doctor Who was doing was kind of above what was normally done at that point, and they wanted to try and keep the show fresh, which does make sense because Russell is now doing 8 episodes, so TV landscapes do change. He also confirmed the one thing that he's sort of reiterated in things like Doctor Who magazine before, that Chibnall only ever wanted to do 3 years, and that Jodie and Chris were specifically in a pact to do 3 series. You know, there wasn't going to be any more than that. And in fact, Chris Chibnall outright says in the Radio Free Skaro interview that he didn't want to do the 60th. It felt like too long for him, and he felt that one of the things that Doctor Who thrives on is that regeneration and that renewal, so letting someone else take it over made more sense to him, which, yeah, fair enough. It's funny though, because I remember back in the day, you know, there being like many leaks and rumours about Chibnall's plans for the 60th when the man himself did not want to do the 60th, which I think is pretty funny. So yeah, as I said, I haven't gone over all the details here, so I'll leave a link to Radio Free Skaro in the description, but this is kind of what I wanted to see from Chris Chibnall, a more extensive interview with regards to his era. I always thought was going to be a really interesting prospect, and it was. It was a really fascinating listen, just to know some of the ins and outs of what happened, and obviously we'll never truly know everything, but it was just nice to pick the brains of Chris Chibnall a little bit more, in the same way that the Crystal D interviews with Stephen Moffat back in the day allowed us to do the same with Moffat. I just find that really interesting. So if you found this interesting as well, be sure to leave a like, comment down below your thoughts on anything we discussed today. Please like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.